Welcome back to Scary Stories. I feel like I just took a 3-year sabbatical and I apologize for that. I had one of those colds with a fever that kept not going away. I finally gave up and laid in bed for a couple of days so it could have its way with me and move on. While I was laid up, I watched old episodes of the Hitchhiker TV series from the 20th century that I found here on a channel on YouTube called Moen Vision. I also used my monthly Audible credit to snag myself a free copy of this audiobook by Linda Godfrey called Monsters Among Us. She's got some truly weird Hollywood werewolf stories in it that I never heard before, and I really wanted to illustrate and share some of these supposedly true urban werewolf stories with you guys. Now, throughout the beginning of this book, Godfrey spends a lot of time going into the fact that there are all sorts of tunnels under Los Angeles and that part of California. There's a subway system that was entirely dug out and then abandoned, for one thing. There are also legends of far older tunnels built by a people that the natives called the Lizard People. Now, before YouTube bans my video, that doesn't mean the people were lizards. It means that was the name of that clan. They identified with lizards, according to legend. I don't know how much of that is legend or fact, and unlike Godfrey, I'm not 100% certain it matters either way. She's seeing these sightings as being of creatures separate from humans, who need a habitat near where they've been sighted. But what if these are not dogmen? What if these are what she calls morphers? What if they're werewolves and not dogmen? Then the habitat they would sleep in would be the apartment next to yours, not some ancient tunnel system underground. I'll give you some examples of her Los Angeles werewolf stories, and you tell me if these are dogman sightings, werewolf sightings, or some other third thing. Let's start it off with the Tessa Dick werewolf story, or a dogman story if you think so, you decide. Tessa is the widow of the great science fiction visionary author Philip K. Dick, and this story happened shortly after her husband's untimely passing at the age of 53 in 1982. Tessa was attending college at Chapman University at the time. She was 28 years old when this happened. While driving her car, she stopped at a red light in El Modena in Orange County. As she sat waiting for the light to change, Tessa says she saw a big black limo roll up next to her, with its tinted windows up. It was a warm day and Tessa had no air conditioning in her car, so her windows were down. Philip K. Dick unfortunately did not become rich and famous until after he was gone. Most of that money went to his children, and Tessa had to fend for herself. While she watched, the back seat window of the limo rolled down, and she found herself looking into the vehicle at a dark canine, which resembled a German shepherd to some degree. She could see the well-groomed creature's head, but not its body. Being an animal lover, Tessa smiled at the dog, and she said the intelligent-looking beast smiled back at her. She thought to herself that the owner of that limo was lucky to have such a beautiful dog. But then something unexpected happened. Just as the light was turning green, the dog, or whatever it was, casually put its arm up on the window to rest it. Although as dark as the rest of him, the arm was human, not canine. It ended in a human hand, not a dog paw. Tessa was stunned and looked up to find the canine-headed man making an expression back at her, which she describes as a smirk. He seemed to be enjoying her shocked expression. The arm had an elbow and a shoulder like a human, and it was covered in very fine black fur, like a dog's front leg. The hand, however, appeared to be hairless from what she could briefly see. If it was wearing any clothing, she didn't notice it from her angle. Tessa says she was not frightened, but she was Philip K. Dick's widow, so she must have become used to fantastic visions. I like to think that this was Anubis himself come to let her know that Phil was being accommodated in fashion in the afterlife. As the light changed to green and they both drove away, Tessa no longer felt the owner of that limo was the dog's master. She felt the dog itself must have owned that limo. Now, does that sound like a dogman story? Or does that sound like a werewolf story? Well, here's another one. This happened in MacArthur Park, the one they wrote that famous song about. You know, the one where it's melting in the dark, as Donna Summer and Richard Harris sang in the previous century. In fact, the song was only written a handful of years before this next event took place in 1972. A woman named Mary May gave this report to Linda Godfrey 42 years later in 2014. She's supposed to be a former actress, and I did put the name in IMDb. I found a few possibilities, but no photos for any of the women. So Mary was out for a romantic walk with her then boyfriend, and they wandered into the park from its entrance on Alvarado and 6th Street just as the sun was setting. As the couple walked south into the park, from the west to their right came a figure running fast, in a manner that for some reason frightened the witness Mary. She pulled back a little, hoping the running figure would pass them by without paying them any attention and ruining the mood. In fact, the figure turned a bit to the right as it passed them and began heading in the direction of Wilshire Boulevard to its right and directly in front of the witness. As it ran, she saw it had the head of a wolf. The sighting was brief, and she failed to make note of what kind of clothing it had on or if it even had any on. She thinks it had shoes, but she isn't sure, because her eyes were focused on the tall pointed ears and the long wolf snout sitting up on the shoulders of this rushing fellow. As she watched, the creature or man leaped a park bench as though it were nothing, and then he ran off heading into a tunnel which passes underneath Wilshire Boulevard and out of their sight. She never mentioned it to her boyfriend because she wanted to get back to their private time, so she never really knew if he even noticed the same thing that she had. Godfrey at this point speaks again about the possibility that the creature was heading to some underground tunnel system, but from what I can see on Google Maps, it just looks like a way to cut through from one side of the park to the other, where there's a lake located. Maybe there is or was a secret door to the mysterious and possibly partially mythical Los Angeles underworld in that underpass. Sort of like in this next and final true Hollyweird Dogman story for today. This one took place in Torrance, in a small outdoor shopping mall with a laundromat in it, back in the 1980s. A woman who was a girl at the time said that her mother had bought her and her older brother a ball, and they got permission to go behind the laundromat to this area that seemed empty of cars to play with their new ball. Her brother would throw the ball high up in the air and she would try to catch it. One time it got away from her and rolled to this back alcove area, set a bit apart from the rest. As she got the ball all the way back in the corner, the girl heard a noise behind her and turned around to find the shock of her life. There was some kind of a metal door in the sidewalk, and out of it had sprung a very angry man, asking her what all the noise was about. She'd been told never to speak to strangers, so the girl stood there terrified and frozen, with her brother off beyond this strangely dressed man. He was wearing clothes that seemed to be from another time. Suddenly the odd old-fashioned looking man began saying, "Oh no, not now," and acting as though he were having some kind of an attack. The girl claims he called her by her first name of Jennifer, which she had never told him. And then that he became a hairy-faced werewolf in front of her eyes. Her brother, who was twice the girl's age, distracted the werewolf climbing out of the metal doorway in the ground long enough for his sister to make it past him. Then both of them ran around to the front of the laundromat, leaving their prized new ball behind with the creature. The two ran into the laundromat shouting at the adults that it was time to evacuate, that a werewolf was coming after them. And the adults found it quite amusing. She claims her brother admits that he saw what he saw, but he won't go on the record saying so. I wonder what she saw, and she claims she does too. Years later, she went back and saw that they had completely redone the back of the shopping center, so that there is no more mysterious metal door in the middle of the sidewalk, for whatever weird reason. She still had the creeps until she got back out of there, though. If a place spooks you once, it's likely always going to put you on edge whenever you return. So those were 3 weird dog-headed people sightings in the Los Angeles area. But what were those sightings of, really? Were they dogmen? Were they werewolves? Were they something else that you'd only find out there in La La Land? Could they have been hoaxes or people wearing masks? Magicians performing tricks in public? If you have any theories about any of these 3 strange cases tonight, please leave your ideas in the comments. And if you would like to read more about these true stories, they're in Chapter 2, Liminal Los Angeles, of Linda Godfrey's book Monsters Among Us. We've got a link to get yourself a copy, which recently has become less expensive in price, which is in our description for this video. If you use that link, you help this channel out, so we thank you in advance. And speaking of thanks, here comes Bigfoot to thank this episode's executive producer. Biggie? Melissa Kutch or Melissa Kutchi. She's always nice and she's never putchy. I have no idea what I'm talking about. You try rhyming everyone's name, okay? So we're thanking Melissa tonight because she's a PayPal Club member who lost her email but kept paying her dues. I have to put together all the links to the 3 months of episodes she's missed. Secret members only episodes, I mean. And then I think she has to contact PayPal, but I don't know how she can't access her email. Does anyone know if I can tell PayPal her new email and help her out? Her email was so high security that it won't let her reset her password. We're sorry that you lost your phone, Melissa, and all these crappy things happen as a result. We hope your luck is great from here on out, though. And we dedicate this episode to you. Thanks, MK. And now, to explain how the rest of you can also get to see our secret uncensored episodes, here's our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank.
Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button. Or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.